The drama of broken protocol. The President of the Republic of Kenya, the keynote speaker, the person hosting the independence celebrations, speaks, gives his speech, and then he invites somebody else to speak. Yeah. How now? How could the president do that? What are the political implications? One of the members of our forum of weekly intelligence briefings told me, Chris, you must do an analysis on this. You must. Obviously, that person saw something that many of us would have missed. But if you missed it, no worries. That is precisely what my show today is all about. And you're going to get shocked. Let me give you a heads up. Because I totally agree with Patrick. Yes, that's his name. This was very significant, with very significant political implications. And it also shows us political tactics of this guy who plays in the Champions League, we've been told, while his opponents do not. Karibu sana. Where's the popcorn? Enjoy. Jamhuri Day 2021 was a super fascinating day politically. What of course grabbed the headlines was the breaking of protocol. Somebody spoke after the head of state had spoken. And while that excited one side of the political divide, it was much deeper than that. But let's start by getting one very important fact right. The deputy president did not refuse to give Raila Odinga a chance to speak. That is not factual. The facts are the deputy president was invited to speak. And in being invited to speak, he was requested, after he ends his speech, to invite the president. That was very clear. And that is exactly what the deputy president did. And that is precisely what anybody would have done in keeping the protocol. And so the person who broke the protocol was the president himself. Now, the politics of the day was all pegged on a very important historical ground in the nation of Kenya called Uhuru Gardens. Abandoned and forgotten for many years. I remember my late political lecturer pointing out the Uhuru Gardens to me. I believe it was in the late 70s. And he told me that is the place where the country received Uhuru. And I looked at the abandoned piece of dirt and said to myself, really? That is the place where something so important in our history happened? And it looks like a normal grazing ground for Maasai cows. Anyway, for us to fully drink in and appreciate the atmosphere, the background, and the context of yesterday's high wire drama politics, it is important that you give me a second or two to recreate for you, precisely what unfolded here. I even have a short video clip, yeah, moving pictures that shows you exactly what was happening, which I'll show you shortly. That should be quite a treat. Now, midnight, a few moments to midnight, 12th December, the year 1963. I was not yet born. The Deputy President William Samoei Ruto was not yet born. Yeah, he was due to be born about 3 years later. President Uhuru Kenyatta was born. He was about 2 years old. And Raila Odinga was a teenager. Something happened here on Uhuru grounds that always brings tears to my eyes when I view the following very brief video clip. Just take it in. I'll be back. The reason why this particular clip always brings tears to my eyes are the cheering Kenyans. Very joyful, over the moon, excited about independence. And I tell myself, if only they knew what was going to unfold after that independence, they would not have been that excited. Because what followed was a total betrayal of the Kenyan people. It is instructive that at exactly the same time, at the highest point of Mount Kenya, a Kenyan known as Kisio Munyao Wakwitu was raising the brand new flag of the brand new nation Kenya at the highest peak of Mount Kenya, Mbatian. He was not alone, of course. He was in the company of some Mzungus, Asians, and one or two other Africans. Even the person who took the photograph you see on the screens right now was a Mzungu. Now here's the very instructive part of this story. In 2007, Kisio Munyao passed on at the age of 73 years. The then President Kibaki, even attended his funeral. Somewhere in Makueni County, Munyao passed on at the Kenyatta National Hospital. That point alone should tell you very clearly how we treat our heroes in this country called Kenya. Very shoddily, history is not important. History is irrelevant. We focus on the now and here. Yes, that's what we're being told by some people. But to watch my feelings, let's focus on the high wire politics of yesterday. It became very clear yesterday that at some point, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were having a conversation about Uhuru Gardens. It was also very clear yesterday what triggered that conversation. That conversation was triggered by something that had happened in 2018. What happened? Somebody decided to put to better use this piece of historical ground. And they did the documentation to grab this particular piece of land and take it over so that the title deed read, owned by so and so. And of course, you don't need to emphasize that those who grabbed this piece of land don't care about history. It is irrelevant, not important. But fortunately, President Uhuru Kenyatta personally rescued this piece of land from the grabber, and even had to use the military, the Kenya Defense Forces, to do it. You know, there was a Kenya Defense Forces operation in our history at another time to rescue our president and bring him back safely into Nairobi after the 1982 failed coup. And that operation was called Operation Maji Machafu. This would have been an ideal name to give the operation that rescued for the Kenyan people the Uhuru grounds. And so it was in this context that the President of the Republic of Kenya and Raila Odinga were having a conversation about the Uhuru Gardens. And it must have been Raila Odinga who introduced the history of this particular place to the president. A history that is missing from our textbooks. Information that Raila Odinga repeated to us yesterday. This was a concentration camp to torture freedom fighters of Kenya. And now it is very easy to understand why the chief organizer of the independence celebrations, Tom Mboya, chose this place to be the place where the Kenyan national flag is raised for the very first time. Very symbolic, very spiritual. That in the place where Kenyans suffered and lost their lives, in the struggle and fight for independence, would be the same place where our independence would be finally proclaimed. And we also learned yesterday that Raila Odinga made a few suggestions to the president. He referred to what he had seen in another country called Namibia in Africa. And the president responded during this private conversation that he was going to do even better than what was in Namibia. So that in case the grabbers return again, after Uhuru has left the presidency, they return again to reclaim this ground for themselves and for their private development, it would be impossible for them to do so. Now let's get into the hard politics. It is very clear that the whole script of what unfolded at the Uhuru Gardens yesterday was carefully planned by these two handshake principles. The objective? To pass on a very clear message to Kenyans as we prepare for the 2022 general elections. Because in case you missed it, a coded but very clear message was passed on to Kenyans. Raila Odinga, on being given a chance to speak, spoke of nothing else. He spoke of how the land was grabbed. And he told us that the same person who grabbed Uhuru Gardens is the same person who grabbed the grounds belonging to a primary school adjacent to the Uhuru Gardens. And it is the place where today a hotel called Weston Hotel stands. That was very clear. If you missed it, I don't know how you missed it. The handshake principles were telling Kenyans that it is okay to elect who you want to elect, but we need to tell you that if you elect the person who is linked to the grabbing of these historical grounds, shauri yako, you will not be able to tell anybody that nobody told you. When you are crying and suffering the consequences of electing that individual, you will not be able to say, I was not aware, I was not told, I was not given a hint that I would suffer how I'm suffering now, based on history. The history have been told. Usitupatie history hapa, hatutaki. Tuambie utatufanyia nini leo. Hapa, ukichaguliwa 2022, utatupatia nini? Utafanya nini? Oh yes, we're told that by the governor of Nyeri recently. Bottom line, clearly, anybody who is not interested in the history of Kenya, anybody who is very determined that we forget it, has something to hide. There has to be a very good reason why they want us to put history in the dustbin. I also want to draw your attention to the way Raila Odinga delivered his speech. He did not accuse anybody. He did not name anybody. He just gave us the facts. And now it should also be very clear why Raila Odinga did not speak before Deputy President William Samoei Ruto. It should be crystal clear to you that the President and Raila did not want Raila to speak before Deputy President William Samoei Ruto spoke. Even the President's introduction, inviting Raila to speak, it should be very clear, was well scripted, organized, arranged well in advance. If anybody was to accurately summarize what the President and Raila were telling Kenyans, the coded message, in one sentence, that one sentence would be as follows: choices have consequences. Some of us warned the American people about the choice they were going to make recently. And many of you on this channel insulted me, told me that I knew nothing about American politics. I should focus and concentrate on Kenyan politics. Well, aren't we all now suffering the consequences? And if it has not reached some of us, will it not reach us all very soon? Umeona ng'ombe ikilazimishwa kudungwa shindano, inafinyiliwa chini, inashikwa vizuri, inadungwa shindano na lazima. Kwani iko nini? Si ni ng'ombe? Si wewe na mimi ni ng'ombe? Tupende, tusipende. Folks, choices have consequences. And that is why I called it high wire drama politics. The handshake brothers, the handshake principles, were telling us very clearly, think very hard before you cast your vote in 2022. Why? Because of what happened here at Uhuru Gardens and what was about to happen and what required the intervention of the President of the Republic of Kenya and indeed the Kenya Defense Forces to avert. That is not propaganda. That is not Kumekucha Chris failing to be balanced. How can you be balanced in such a situation? Please educate me. Do I become balanced by saying land grabbing is okay? Or do I become balanced by saying there is no evidence that a presidential candidate for 2022 grabbed some historical ground in Kenya? There is no evidence. Is that how I'm supposed to be balanced? And yet that would be a lie. There is evidence which were given yesterday during the Jamhuri Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens, historical Uhuru Gardens, grounds that are very significant to every single person who calls themselves a Kenyan, even those who are yet to be born. Is that how I can be balanced? You know, there's a very easy way for you to prove to yourself that I am not a Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta sycophant. I'm a sycophant of the ordinary, long-suffering Kenyan. There is a very easy way to prove that. Just give me evidence of Raila Odinga grabbing land somewhere in Kenya. It doesn't have to be a place that is as important as the Uhuru Gardens. No, just any small shamba belonging to an ordinary Kenyan. Give me the evidence. Give me the story. Indeed, even give me the suspicion. And I will do a video quickly, like yesterday. Now I know what some of you are saying. Jomo Kenyatta was a land grabber. Jomo Kenyatta is the father of the president currently, President Uhuru Kenyatta. I agree, that is true. However, Jomo Kenyatta his son Uhuru Kenyatta are not presidential candidates in 2022. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so, in my opinion, talking about land grabbing of the past by the other side of the political divide, according to you, is not balancing this video, is not balancing both sides. Because we are talking about the now and here, the presidential candidates in 2022. So what is relevant is how Kalonzo Musyoka, another presidential candidate, was involved in land grabbing. How Musalia Mudavadi was involved in the same. And how any other person vying for the presidency in 2022 was involved in this evil. That is what is relevant. And I'm not saying what was done before was not evil. It was very evil. And that is precisely why going forward, we need a president who can help us correct historical evils, not repeat them. Now, before I go, I want you to take note of a very interesting political strategy of Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm sure many of you have seen this smart strategy. You don't attack your opponent directly. No. And this is the same strategy being used by the immediate former president of the United States. Yeah, very effective. Instead of attacking your opponents, you let them do what they have to do. And sooner or later, their true nature, their true character will be visible to everybody. In fact, when you do it this way, your opponents will just keep quiet. They'll shut up. They'll lie low like an envelope because there's no possible response they can come up with. The media comes up to you for a comment on land grabbing. No comment. Land grabbing manenos happen in the country called Kenya. You keep quiet. You don't say anything. In fact, it may reach that point where some people may say you have something to hide. Why do you seem to be so frightened, terrified about commenting about certain issues? Kumbe, you're not scared. You're laying a trap and you're being very patient. And then one day, you start giving us a history lesson. You start telling us a story. And your story is about land grabbing. And you don't mention anybody's name. But you happen to mention a piece of grabbed land. And your audience react. They start laughing. They have understood the message. They have not missed it. It's very clear. Game shot. And that is why when I say on this channel that some people are playing at a superior level in this game of politics, sio matusi. And I'm not getting personal against somebody. No. It is the naked truth. And guess what? Mambo bado. Tena bado sana. Because the presidential campaigns proper have not even started. Bado. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.